The Zalaxians regarded themselves as the pinnacle of intelligence in the cosmos. Their crystalline bodies shimmered with inner light, glowing like living constellations as they drifted gracefully through the cloud-born spires of their immaculate cities. For them, the mysteries of quantum mechanics had been unraveled long before other civilizations could even master arithmetic. Technologies that lesser species viewed as miracles, faster-than-light travel among them, were, to the Zalaxians, trivial tricks, no more impressive than tying a knot. Yet even they abided by a single law, a rule etched into the fabric of galactic culture: never wake the humans. It was not that humans looked particularly threatening. On the surface, they were fragile, unimpressive organisms, clumsy flesh bound by bone, barely capable of reaching the stars before vanishing into slumber. The stories told that, during their third and most catastrophic global war, humanity had chosen hibernation over annihilation. Cryogenic fleets, vast cities encased in steel hulls, had departed their homeworld and wandered into the void, preserving billions in frozen sleep while automated systems kept their fragile lives intact. No one remembered exactly why the warning had been born, or who had first decreed it. The reasons were lost to history. But the words had endured, inscribed in archives across the stars, carried in the tongues of thousands of civilizations. Let them sleep. Chief Science Officer Xylith hovered at the helm of his survey vessel, crystalline appendages brushing the control lattice. The translucent hologram of their latest find, an ancient human colony ship, floated above the console. His crew stood back, observing the vessel with the reverence of priests before an altar. The ship was older than anything the Zalaxians considered operational, a relic drifting through the dark. Yet something about it made Xylith's crystalline core vibrate with unease. "Curious beings," he murmured, his voice resonating through his luminous frame. "So peaceful in their slumber. Hard to fathom that they are the reason for our most sacred command." He was right to be uneasy. What followed would later be recounted before the Emergency Council, his form dimming with shame. It had begun as a simple survey, nothing more than a surface-level analysis of the hull. Harmless, non-invasive, routine. But one of his officers thought otherwise. Zix, a young researcher fresh from the Galactic Academy, had joined the expedition full of brilliance and the arrogance of untested genius. Human biology had fascinated them from the beginning, particularly the colony ship's cryogenic systems, which displayed an efficiency that mocked even the Zalaxians' grasp of thermodynamics. "A small probe," Zix urged, crystalline facets quivering with excitement. "We won't disturb the humans. Just imagine what we could learn." Xylith should have refused. He should have remembered the law. Instead, he allowed it. The probe slipped into the ship's quantum field, and everything changed. The dormant vessel, silent for centuries, suddenly shuddered with life. Warning chimes shrieked across the Zalaxian monitors. "What have you done?" Xylith's usually melodic voice shattered into a jagged scream. I only meant," Zix faltered, their brilliance collapsing into panic. The probe's signature, it must have resonated with their cryogenic lattice. Their once radiant body dulled, turning nearly translucent with dread. On the view screen, the first pod flickered awake. Then another. Then hundreds. Thousands. Each lit like a star piercing the night, forming constellations of awakening across the vast chamber. The ship's archaic systems moved with flawless precision, executing an awakening sequence that even Zalaxian sensors struggled to comprehend. "Emergency transmission to High Command," Xylith cried, his core pulsing in alarm. "Code ultraviolet. Repeat, code ultraviolet. Human awakening in progress, Sector 7. The response was immediate. Warships dropped from hyperspace in crystalline arcs, encircling the colony vessel in a containment formation. Their hulls shimmered like blades of living light. On the command screen, the visage of the High Commander appeared, a being of immense age, her crystalline body a deep and furious violet. "You absolute neutron star fools!" Her voice cracked like thunder across the channel. Do you comprehend what you've unleashed? They were not to rise for another millennium. High Commander, Xylith began weakly. Perhaps we can return them to slumber. The ship itself interrupted him. Engines long thought dead surged awake, ancient drives roaring with unholy efficiency. Systems that should have corroded into silence now sang with terrifying harmony. And worst of all, their scanners confirmed the truth. The human minds within were not merely conscious. They were furious. The commander's voice dropped to a whisper, a prayer carried on a trembling frequency. It is too late. They are awake. May the first light shield us all. Chaos erupted. Protocols deployed, containment grids expanded, evacuation orders screamed across the fleet. Amid the frenzy, ZIX turned to Xylith, their crystalline body barely holding form. I suppose, ZIX whispered, this won't reflect well on my performance review. Then came the sound that silenced every ship in orbit. The human vessel broadcast on all frequencies, the voice of an ancient tongue long thought lost. The transmission cut through the void with terrifying clarity. Who dares disturb our slumber? The Xylaxian diplomatic corps had once been celebrated for their unmatched mastery of first contact. They had quelled wars, defused genocides, and famously persuaded a hive mind not to transform an entire galaxy into paperclips. But no amount of training had prepared them for this. For nothing in the universe was more dangerous than awakened, angry humans, who had just been torn from their centuries-long slumber. Ambassador Crystal, the Xylaxian envoy assigned to humanity, glided forward with diplomatic poise. Her name, deliberately chosen for humans' peculiar fondness for literal translations, was meant to inspire trust. Every facet of her crystalline body had been polished to perfection, refracting starlight into dazzling patterns that conformed to no fewer than 16 interspecies standards of beauty. Remember, she whispered to her delegation as they prepared to board. We must be respectful, apologetic, above all diplomatic. We disturbed their rest. How bad could it possibly be? The answer, as it turned out, was worse than anything they'd imagined. The human vessel had granted docking clearance, a gesture the delegation foolishly interpreted as goodwill. But the moment they drifted through the airlock, they were greeted not with formal ceremony, but with a gaggle of humans in rumpled sleepwear, clutching steaming cups of an opaque liquid. The crystalline team scanned it instantly. Their systems flagged the substance as a probable chemical weapon. The humans called it coffee. So, the human at the front muttered, their hair defying gravity in chaotic spikes, dark crescents beneath their eyes. You're the ones who thought it'd be hilarious to wake up several million people before their alarm went off. Ambassador Crystal launched into her carefully rehearsed address, radiating artificial warmth. Most esteemed humans, on behalf of the Galactic Alliance, we extend our deepest. Save it, Sparkles. The human took a long, defiant sip of coffee. Do you have any idea how long it took us to sync everyone's sleep schedules? Do you understand the logistics of getting millions of people to nap at the same time? The delegation's polished composure flickered. No training manual had prepared them for this scenario. We have prepared reparations, one aide offered desperately, including the latest innovations in dream enhancement technology, soothing, restorative, luxurious. The human leader snorted. Actually snorted. The sound rattled the crystalline team's cores. Oh, that's rich. You think some shiny pillows will fix this? Ever tried going back to sleep after someone yanked you out of a dream? Impossible. From there, the negotiations unraveled. The humans had grievances, many grievances, and they intended to air each one loudly and at length. Complaints piled upon complaints, echoing through the ship's chambers like artillery fire. The true breaking point came when a human discovered that their beloved dish, pizza, had gone extinct sometime during their cosmic nap. The resulting meltdown sent 3 Xylaxian aides into fractal shatters and caused one diplomat to lose their crystalline coherence entirely. This is unprecedented, Crystal whispered in a secure channel to High Command. They aren't threatening war. They aren't unleashing weapons. They are complaining. Endlessly. Her form dimmed with dread. And now they're organizing what they call a town hall meeting. Millions of them, gathering to share their frustrations at once. The very word committee sent tremors of existential panic through the core. Matters only worsened. The humans discovered their treasured entertainment networks had long since collapsed. Terms like Netflix and chill rippled through the air with venomous intensity. Translators strained under the sheer emotional force of the phrase social media withdrawal, nearly overloading their circuit. Desperate to restore calm, Crystal offered an unprecedented bargain. We cede to you several resort planets, entire worlds of leisure. A place to relax until you feel prepared to sleep again. The human leader's reply entered the archives as one of the shortest and most terrifying diplomatic rejections in history. Bold of you to assume we'll ever sleep again. Now, about those missing pizza recipes. If an awakened human carried the weight of a grudge, that alone was catastrophic. An awakened human carrying a grudge and deprived of comfort food was a cosmic nightmare. But the true disaster began when humans turned their attention to their inboxes. Quantum messages spanning centuries flooded their systems. And as they read, the shift was unmistakable. Irritation gave way to amusement. At an emergency summit, one coffee-fueled human addressed the gathered alliance, their 15th mug steaming in their grip. "Let me get this straight," they said, scanning reports with a smirk. "While we were asleep, you all decided we entered cryosleep because we ran out of resources?" The High Commander's crystalline glow flickered uneasily. "According to the historical record." "Oh, this is priceless." Another human laughed so hard they wiped tears from their eyes. "They really don't know." The truth landed like a supernova. Humanity had not entered cryosleep because of desperation. Not from famine. Not from war. Not from collapse. They had done it because they were bored. "We'd solved everything," their leader explained, scrolling through mission logs with undisguised glee. "Unlimited clean energy. Global peace. Universal healthcare. Faster than light travel. We even cracked why kids love Cinnamon Toast Crunch." They leaned back, smirking. So, there was nothing left to do. The Galactic Alliance watched, horrified, as their most sacred archives unraveled into farce. The great legend of humanity's desperate hibernation had been wrong all along. They hadn't slept because they needed to. They had slept because existence itself had become too dull. Those crude, blocky ships? Nothing but camouflage. The unremarkable cryogenic pods? Not storage chambers at all, but quantum consciousness repositories so advanced they made Zalaxian technology look like a pair of stones struck together. The truth was staggering. Humanity hadn't been asleep. They had been running simulations on a universal scale, performing quantum computations vast enough to make the most sophisticated supercomputer weep electrons. And, for reasons no one dared probe too deeply, they had apparently spent just as much time binge-watching every conceivable variation of reality television across infinite timelines. "But the warnings," Ambassador Crystal stammered, her polished form fracturing with unease. "The rule passed down through every civilization, that humans must never be disturbed." "Oh, that!" A human scientist grinned, delight written across their disheveled features. "We wrote that. Broadcast it across the stars. Best prank we ever pulled." The revelation detonated through the Galactic Alliance like a supernova. Humans were not the fragile endangered species the galaxy had believed them to be. They were cosmic adolescents who had set the universe's longest out-of-office reply, and everyone else had taken it seriously. As the Alliance scrambled to reconcile centuries of misconception, the scope of human activity became horrifyingly clear. While resting, they had mapped every potential timeline the universe could follow, solved the eternal mystery of whether hot dogs counted as sandwiches, though they refused to disclose their answer, developed a unified theory of everything, only to dismiss it as boring and create several more entertaining alternatives. Invented and abandoned 17 versions of social media, declaring them emotionally exhausting. Finally discovered why socks vanish in laundry cycles, a truth they swore never to reveal. To Zalaxian scientists, even the so-called primitive machinery aboard the human ship was too much to process. Once the scans were decoded, it became clear. These were not machines. They were art projects made by human children while their parents caught up on some cosmic rest. Several researchers required therapy after the realization. But why the deception? The High Commander demanded, her crystalline body vibrating with barely restrained panic. The human leader shrugged, sipping yet another cup of coffee. Have you ever tried being the most advanced species in the galaxy? It's exhausting. Everyone pesters you. Fix our technology, solve our existential dread, design our faster-than-light toilet. We just needed a break. The Alliance's pride shattered completely when it was revealed that humans had achieved this unimaginable level of advancement before most species had even discovered the wheel. For millennia, they had quietly observed from the sidelines, occasionally leaving anonymous suggestions. Try pointing the rocket the other way. Or maybe don't mix those chemicals unless you enjoy craters. Think of it as a cosmic gap year, one human explained cheerfully. Except instead of backpacking across Europe, we napped for a few centuries and let the rest of you feel important. The High Commander's final report distilled the nightmare into a single conclusion. We were not safeguarding a dormant species. We were unwilling participants in the galaxy's longest-running social experiment. Now the experimenters are awake, heavily caffeinated, and demanding updates on current events. May whatever deities you revere have mercy on us. ZIX's infamous probe, once classified as the greatest scientific blunder in Zalaxian history, was officially rebranded as the most successful alarm clock in the cosmos. Few agreed on whether this was an improvement. The galactic balance of power collapsed almost overnight. Yesterday, the Zalaxians had ruled as unchallenged masters of knowledge. Today, they stood dumbfounded as humans casually rearranged star systems for aesthetic reasons. You can't just move an entire solar system. High Commander Kristallos wailed, their crystalline form shattering into anxious fragments as they watched stars being tugged into new positions. Watch us, replied the human leader, now wearing a bathrobe and fuzzy slippers while orchestrating the relocation of suns. That nebula has great vibes, but this star's blocking the view. Besides, the commute times between systems were ridiculous. Who designed this mess? The Alliance quickly realized that maintaining order in a human-awakened universe was like attempting to herd quantum cats, possible in theory, catastrophic in practice. Humans began fixing things no one else had even noticed were broken, introducing the concept of weekends to species who had never paused work, establishing universal Wi-Fi that functioned seamlessly across dimensions, launching a galactic food delivery service capable of fetching takeout from any planet in under 30 minutes, or your money back. The once formidable Zalaxian bureaucracy disintegrated into chaos when humans unleashed Casual Fridays. Crystalline officials wearing Hawaiian shirts became a recurring nightmare for the High Commander. But the most shocking transformation came from the younger generations. Instead of resisting humanity's intrusion, they embraced it eagerly. Young Zalaxians flocked to human-led clubs, sparking the galaxy's first interspecies meme wars. Other species followed, captivated by human irreverence. You have to admit, Xenex remarked to Xylith as they watched teenagers learning to chill from human mentors, they do make things more interesting. Xylith, somehow still employed after the greatest catastrophe in recorded history, could only nod in weary agreement. Humanity had promoted him to a new position, Chief Officer of making sure humans don't get too bored again. Xylith still wasn't certain whether his new title, Chief Officer of making sure humans don't get too bored, was a commendation or a punishment. What he was certain of was that humanity's approach to governance defied every principle the galaxy had once held sacred. Instead of rigid councils and ceremonial decrees, they built what they called a universal community center, an enormous station drifting between stars where beings of every shape and substance gathered simply to hang out. Diplomatic crises were now resolved through game nights and potluck dinners. But what about protocols? Ambassador Crystal had demanded in horror, as she watched humans settle a centuries-old territorial dispute with an interplanetary karaoke battle. Protocols, the human mediator replied with a shrug, are just suggestions wearing fancy hats. Then they queued up the next track. Universal Wind, performed to the timeless rhythm of Darude Sandstorm, pulled from humanity's ancient sleep playlist. Even the dreaded void crawlers, a hive species feared for millennia, softened after humans introduced them to hot chocolate and bubble wrap. "We're not evil," the hive mind confessed. "We were just really stressed." The human solution to most interstellar problems came down to one of three things: snacks, naps, or what they called group therapy. Against all odds, it worked better than centuries of bureaucracy. Soon, the Galactic Chill Zone Treaty was signed. Its revolutionary clauses included mandatory vacation days, the right to Netflix and actually chill, strict penalties for any species caught overworking, enforced by the newly founded Department of Taking It Easy. The once mighty Zalaxian High Council was repurposed into a cosmic coffee club. Critical policy debates unfolded over croissants and steaming mugs. Humans insisted caffeine was essential for rational decision-making. "You know your problem," one human told a circle of counselors, "is way too much crystal and not enough flow. You've gotta ride the gravitational waves, dudes." The most remarkable creation was the Interspecies Relaxation Coalition. Young Zalaxians, void crawlers, and dozens of other species joined humans in pursuit of the perfect work-life balance. Paradoxically, productivity soared. Turns out the galaxy worked better when people knew when to stop. Xylith, observing a human teaching children how to toast marshmallows with a plasma reactor, realized that maybe, just maybe, waking humanity hadn't been the galaxy's undoing. Perhaps it had been a universal reset button. Chaotic, yes, but strangely refreshing. "Chief Officer," a human called across the hangar, "we're kicking off the first annual Galactic Game Night. Want in?" We modded Monopoly to include actual solar systems. Xylitha's crystalline body pulsed with what might have been resignation or amusement. It was hard to tell these days. "Why not?" he replied. "It's not like the universe could get any stranger." The human grinned. "Wait until you try karaoke." 6 months after what humans insisted on calling the universal snooze button incident, the galaxy bore little resemblance to its former self. The Zalaxian archives, unable to track the endless cultural upheavals, abandoned official record-keeping entirely. Instead, they launched a blog. More on-brand, the humans said. The cultural blending that followed produced spectacles no historian could have imagined. The void crawlers became sought-after meditation coaches. Their knack for inducing existential dread was rebranded as helping others find inner clarity. A new proverb spread: "Nothing makes you appreciate life quite like a void crawler asking about your career goals." Young Zalaxians discovered their crystalline bodies made them natural experts in what humans called mood lighting. Within decades, they were opening chic lounges across the stars. The most famous, Crystal Vibes, had a waiting list that spanned 3 centuries. The first interspecies Olympics collapsed in chaos when organizers realized the high jump unfairly favored gravity manipulators. The swimming events were abandoned altogether after aquatic species misinterpreted the concept of pool noodles with disastrous result. Education transformed as well. Galactic history lessons now included: Teacher: why did humans pretend to sleep for centuries? Students: because they were tired? Teacher: no. Because they were tired of us. Class: fair. The Galactic Senate was rebranded as the Town Hall Hangout, furnished with beanbags and endless snack dispensers. A single rule governed proceedings: no politics without pizza. Somehow, legislation became more effective than ever. Even the formidable Zalaxian military adapted. War cruisers once feared across galaxies were retrofitted into coffee shops and yoga studios. The sight of crystalline admirals attempting downward-facing dogs spread as a meme across 17 dimensions. Cultural exchanges brought more confusion. Humans introduced casual dress to species who had never worn clothing, sparking galaxy-wide debate. Is wearing nothing more casual or less? For Xylith, life had become one long exercise in bewildered acceptance. Yet as the galaxy loosened its crystalline grip on tradition, he couldn't deny the truth. The humans hadn't just changed the rules. They had rewritten what it meant to live in the universe. The debate over what constituted casual dress was finally resolved by declaring that every day would henceforth be Hat Day. No species could agree on fashion, but everyone agreed hats were funny. The Universal Translation Matrix had to be rebuilt from the ground up to accommodate human idioms. It's raining cats and dogs triggered planetary evacuations on 3 worlds before someone explained it was only a figure of speech. The void crawlers, naturally, attempted to make it literal, just to see what would happen. Of all human integrations, food proved the most transformative. Their insistence on culinary experimentation led to dishes no other civilization would have dared imagine. The quantum quesadilla became an intergalactic sensation, folding multiple timelines into a single bite. The void crawler vindaloo, however, was unanimously deemed a flavor best left untasted. Xylith, now heading the newly christened Department of Keeping Things Interesting, Humans, a name he had insisted upon, spent most of his time mediating chaos. No, you cannot actually steal someone's nose. The floor is not literally lava. Yes, humans really do need 8 hours of sleep. No, your face is not an acceptable diplomatic response. Usually. Yet beneath the absurdity, the galaxy thrived. Species were no longer merely coexisting, they were genuinely enjoying one another. Humanity's strange blend of chaos and creativity had accomplished what millennia of order had not: harmony. As one human philosopher summarized, sometimes you need to wake up the universe to help it dream better. No one fully understood what it meant, but it sounded profound enough to print on t-shirts, so they did. A year after the Great Awakening, what humans insisted on calling the Universal Snooze Button Incident, the Galactic Alliance convened for its annual review. The chamber, redesigned with recliners and endless snack dispensers, a non-negotiable human requirement, buzzed with chatter and crystalline laughter. High Commander Kristallos stood at the podium, radiant with wry amusement. For millennia we enforced a law we never questioned: don't wake the humans. We believed it sacred. And now we know, they weren't even asleep. They were simply taking a break from babysitting the galaxy. The human leader, robed in their now iconic bathrobe, adopted as official diplomatic attire across 3 sectors, raised a mug of coffee in salute. In our defense, they said, you all were doing fine. Mostly. Except for that whole void-crawler thing. We apologized, the void-crawler representative grumbled, adjusting their comfort scarf. But as the meeting carried on, Xylith noticed something unsettling. The humans were yawning. Not just 1 or 2, all of them. His crystalline form shivered with uneasy curiosity. Are you all right? He asked the leader, who blinked slowly, struggling to stay alert. Oh yeah, the human replied, stifling a yawn. It's just, you know how, after a long nap, you stay awake for a while, but then you get tired again? The room froze. Crystalline bodies vibrated in silent horror. You don't mean, Ambassador Crystal whispered. The human leader stretched, smiling. Yep. Thinking it's about time for another nap. You've got things under control now. Mostly. Kristallos nearly shattered from panic. You can't simply go back to sleep. Watch us. The human's grin widened. Don't worry, we've left real instructions this time. Actual ones. Not just that prank about leaving us alone. They paused, mischief gleaming in their eyes. Although, maybe we'll keep that rule too. For old time's sake. And so, the universe prepared once again for humanity's retreat into slumber. Only this time, it was not a secret experiment nor a prank upon the stars. This time, the galaxy entered into the arrangement willingly, complicit in what history would dub the Great Universal Snooze sequel. Xylith, watching the preparations, couldn't help but marvel at the irony. The ancient law was becoming relevant once more, but for entirely different reasons. His crystalline body shimmered with suppressed laughter. At least, he thought, they taught us how to make coffee before checking out again. In the end, the greatest truth of the galaxy proved the simplest. Sometimes, everyone just needs a good nap. If you enjoyed this journey through humanity's cosmic chaos, don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the stars. Like, share, and comment to tell us what part made you laugh, or what kind of sci-fi world you'd like us to explore next. After all, in this universe, the dream never really ends.